Good afternoon. Hello. Sorry to startle you. My name is Gay Williams, and we are going to go ahead and get started because it is noon. And we have a jam-packed, wonderful program for you, so we want to get going. I'm Gay Williams. I am the current president of the League of Women Voters of Wake County, and we're so glad that you're here with us today. Let me see if this is going to work. Ned, I might need for you to advance it one time so it picks it up. There we go. For our Water Everywhere program focused on the sustainability of our Wake County water supply. Before we get going on that program, I just want to share a little bit about the League in case you are new to the League, and a reminder for those of us who've been involved for a long time. We were founded in 1920, and that happens to be the same time that the State League and the U.S. League were founded. So we've been around for 106 years and not going anywhere and still advocating for voters. We are nonpartisan. So what does that mean? Does it mean that we're neutral on issues? Absolutely not. And I know many of you know that very well. But it does mean we never support parties and we don't support candidates or oppose parties or candidates. So that is something that we are very strict about as an organization. What we do, though, is encourage active participation, encourage our citizens to increase their understanding of major public policy areas. And we do work at times to influence public policy through educating the public and through advocacy. A few upcoming opportunities. Celeste from our membership team isn't here, so I'll stand in for her. So tonight, oh, where's Celeste? Oh, there you are, sorry. Celeste, come up and share. Wake Forest is a long way. She came in from Wake Forest.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone. The membership committee has the awesome opportunity to plan opportunities for members to engage and to bring friends, to get to know one another. So as you can see up there, we've got a couple of things coming up. Is the Howling Cow Dairy, where you can get delicious ice cream, and with the weather heating up. So that's May 20th, 3 to 5, there's a social there. And that is just an opportunity to gather. Whoever comes. And I know last year was extremely, very popular. And so I imagine this year I plan on going. I couldn't make it last year. And then May 30th, there's a potluck brunch in Wake Forest. I am actually the host of that. And you can also see that on the calendar. You do need to register for that. If you're a member, you can go on there. We especially are looking for our new members, but everyone is welcome. We try and do our different potlucks around Wake County, as you know, very large county. And this time we're coming up to my neck of the woods in Wake Forest. But thank you. Hope to see you at some of the events.
Thank you so much, Celeste. A couple of other things I want to highlight. Tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday, one of our local high schools is performing Suffs the Musical. So whether or not you had a chance to see the professional performance in Charlotte, I really encourage you to support Middle Creek High School and its performance of Suffs. They were awarded the opportunity to perform it through a grant called The Youth Are at the Gates. And if you've seen the play, that'll be meaningful for you. It's one of the songs in the play. So they received a grant to put it on. It was a competitive grant process. Only 12 high schools around the country were awarded the opportunity to perform this at this time. And we have one right here in Apex, so in our county. So we're really excited about that. We are tabling before the performance and during intermission as part of their lobby experience. So we're really excited that they offered us that opportunity as well. We do have one more volunteer slot open for Saturday, but you can also buy tickets. We have a few tickets left over that I purchased as a block for Friday. All this stuff is on the calendar. So if you didn't write that down and you're interested, just go out to the calendar and take a look. We have some members going tonight. We have about 8 or 10 members going tomorrow, and then some of us will be there to volunteer on Saturday. Oh, let's see, one more thing. Advocacy Day. If you're signed up for Advocacy Day, just remember that is Tuesday. I'm sure you've gotten lots of emails from the state advocacy team. Whether or not you're signed up for Advocacy Day on Tuesday, our focus on Tuesday will be voting rights. We are having an advocacy training session on Monday evening. You can sign up for that through the calendar. You do not need to be participating in the Tuesday event to get the training on Monday. So it's good general training. If you're interested, just go online and sign up for that. And then last but not least on this list is our annual meeting. So this will be our last timely topics for the spring. We will pick that back up in September, but we do have our big annual membership meeting on June 16th. We're going to be at the NCSU University Club again, as we did the last couple of years. Promises to be a great event. We have a speaker this year from the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. We're really excited to have her come. She's terrific. So please do join us. The cost this year is reduced from last year due to member donations, where it's down. It was $45 last year. This year it's only $30, and that basically just covers the cost of your meal. So we're really grateful for those contributions that offset that cost. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to ask Eve to come up and introduce our speakers for the day.
Good morning, all. My name is Eve Vitalione, and I am co-chair, together with the irrepressible Jackie Giordano of the Environment Committee of the League of Women Voters of Wake County. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you for speakers for showing up. That was good of you. Today, we look forward to exploring the condition of our Wake County water supply, the quantity, the quality, and some preservation measures. We are ably assisted in this endeavor by our three outstanding speakers. First, Lauren Daniel. Lauren will outline our water supply and quantity. Lauren is the award-winning Water Education Program Coordinator for the NC Department of Environmental Quality, where she leads several water education programs. Next, Kelsey Sosa will delve into our water quality issues. Kelsey is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Director at NC Cooperative Extension Wake County Center. Her work focuses on educating residents about the environmental impact of urban development, water quality, and environmental health risks. Finally, Mitch Woodward will wrap up with water quality and watershed protection. Mitch is with the NC Cooperative Extension, where he works across the state to educate and demonstrate effective stream bank and stormwater control measures. He has installed hundreds of stormwater control measures. There will be time for Q&A at the end, so hold those thoughts. I hope there will be time. Thank you.
Hello, hello, can you hear me? Yes. Hi, everyone. Okay. I'm a mover. I'm a wanderer. Okay, so am I in the screen? Am I here? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Daniel, and I provide water education programs for the North Carolina Division of Water Resources. I'm housed under the big umbrella of the Department of Environmental Quality. So I hang out with the water folks in the Division of Water Resources. See if this works. We're gonna get there. Thank you. I'll go ahead and roll. Just a little background on myself. Like I mentioned, I do water education, so I support our state's environmental education certificate. So, and also I'm going to speak to y'all like you are, as you are, leaders in your own communities, as you are educators in your own communities. How do we talk to our neighbors and our friends and our family about water supply and water supply planning? So, excuse me. And I want to say, if anyone is interested, there's a environmental education certificate offered through DEQ. Highly recommend it. It changed my life. So, are we? I broke the computer with my slide deck, y'all. I'm sorry about that. But Project WET is one of my big flagship programs. If you have ever heard of Project WET, it teaches teachers how to teach about water. So I teach teachers and non-formal educators throughout the state. It's a wonderful job. It's a dream job. But what I'm going to try to do here today is talk to you about how we at North Carolina's Division of Water Resources, how do we help water systems and local governments throughout the state plan for water supply? So just a little context, I really want to drive this point. I provide education. The coworkers I work with are these amazing folks who review local water supply plans throughout the year. So I get like we love you, Miss Daniel, notes from fourth graders. Meanwhile, the engineers are over here wondering what the heck it is I do out there. So it's great. I'm sorry, I don't mean to lean on my slides, but I want to just make sure that we're gonna. There's a QR code on that screen if you want to access this presentation for yourself. Okay, great. So these are some of the programs I offer. NC Creek Week Network, it's our water. If you ever want to learn more about this, there's more. It's not just today. You can take an online self-paced module to learn more about how to teach about water, how to talk about water, how to understand water planning. Okay, perfect. Can we proceed one more? Lovely. All right. So why am I here today? We're talking about how the state oversees water planning. So a lot of us see headlines all the time about water issues in Wake County. So I just grabbed a few. And this week, it is uncanny, the timing of this talk, because this week, we just saw our first round of water shortage response plans that we are going to be talking about later in my presentation. But we're in a drought. And what do we do in this drought to make sure that we have enough water to meet our supply? So I just want to drive home the point that this was not a surprise that these stage 1 water restrictions would come into place. This is part of a plan. There are, I would say, over 100 folks throughout Wake County and adjacent counties that are planning for situations just like this. So while it came as a surprise, these water restrictions, there are lots of folks who knew that when certain triggers were met, we were going to have these restrictions. So don't let the headlines fool you. This is not, what is it? Clickbait, like rage bait, this is all part of the plan. So let's get into it a little more. If we can, proceed a little more. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about what the state does. So in the Division of Water Resources, we look at local water supply plans. All local governments and any agency that distributes water to over 1,000 connections are responsible for submitting these local water supply plans. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And these local water supply plans all allow us to, they're public record, you can look it up yourself. But all of these local water supply plans help us peel back what's being done to plan and prepare for big issues, big considerations like drought, like we have now, flooding issues that get into another water quantity issue that impacts water quality, growth and development, and infrastructure. All of these considerations can be found in your local water supply plan. Okay, let's go back. Let's make sure we're all on the same page here. A watershed. What is a watershed? Anyone want to just give me what do you think of when I show you a watershed? What is this? Drainage system. A drainage system, exactly. When I work with students, I compare the watershed to a bathtub. It's the area of land that drains the water into a central point. And that central location is a creek or a stream or a river, depending on how big our watershed is. how many tributaries are draining into it. And then, oh, and Jackie, thank you, set out some of these statewide river basin maps we have on the table. Great Christmas presents. I have a handful of extras if you want. But I want you to understand that these river basins in our state are these large-scale watersheds. So we have, anyone know how many river basins we have in North Carolina? Trivia? Elizabeth?
17.
17, we do. Excellent job. You get a river basin map. But when you go out west, these states, Arizona and Nevada, they think we are just water rich out here. And they don't have as many amazing river basins as we do. So how do we talk about scarcity? What do we talk about a drought when we have so many rivers and streams in our state? Annette, if you could keep going. Let me get through this because I'm on a time crunch here. I gotta keep rolling. Okay, keep going, Annette. Okay, so the idea is you would think that Wake County has our watersheds, and each of our watersheds should be able to sustain the growth and development within that watershed. But if Annette goes to the next slide, there we go. This is our map of our water systems. It does not respect the boundaries of our watersheds. So if you're looking at this map here, if you're in the orange, if you live in the orange, you are purchasing your water from Raleigh Water. Now, some of y'all, does anyone in here have a private well? Have a well in their backyard? So wells are not, private wells are not managed by these local water supply plans through DWR. If you want your private well tested, you go to the county's Health and Human Services. So I am only talking about large water systems or local governments that provide water. So orange, just in case you can't see, I do want to clarify this. Orange is Raleigh Water, Cary Water is yellow. The purple is Apex, I'm sorry. And we get down the green and the red, we're in Holly Springs and that's a big one. Okay, so keep going in that if you don't mind. And can you flip to the picture that I shared with you? Okay, so a big question I get a lot, thank you. I'm really making a network today, I'm sorry. But a big question I hear is Wake County running out of water? And I want to share with you this image here. At the end of the day, well, first of all, there is no direct answer, is Wake County running out of water? But I do want to clarify, if you can see, which you might not be able to see, this is a picture from the Triangle Water Partnership. And at the end of the day, to answer the question, are we running out of water? Well, we have, perfect. We have interconnections and partnerships underway. So if we run out of water, it's not just because Falls Lake has run out. It's because our partnerships that we are working on every day and our interconnections are also not able to supply the water for meeting demand. Okay, so, and then if you could keep going. What that picture was, by the way, you couldn't see it very well. It was just a bunch of arrows to show how all these water systems are interconnected, not just through drinking water and water distribution, but also through wastewater. Okay, so here we go. This is the sprint. I'm going to try to get through this. What a cute cat. I was not in the presentation. Okay, I'm going to run through it, and I'm not going to rely on the slides, or else I'll be here for an hour, and I know you don't want to. Okay, so the local water supply plans are submitted each year by a water system. So in Raleigh, we get Raleigh Water, local water supply plan, Cary Water, local supply plan. And so these water supply plans, LWSPs, cover system information, water use information, the water supply sources, and the wastewater information, often overlooked. But my favorite is the planning section. Anyone can find this in the comfort of your own home. Excellent Saturday reading material, Saturday night. So keep going, Annette. Let's jump in. I have a QR code. If you want to watch this again, you can just Google local water supply plans, North Carolina. You can follow that QR code if you want to snap it with your phone. And you can search for your local water supply system, your local water system, using this tool. Search it by the county. That's what I always do. And Annette, if you'll keep going. I chose Wake County. So You might not be able to see them all, but there are 8 water systems within Wake County. Wait a minute. Anyone able to see that small text there? There are 7 water systems within Wake County, and then our friend Harnett County is included on our Wake County water supply plans. Funny how that snuck in there. Let's find out why. So what I'm trying to do in my sprint to explain this, I pulled the local water supply plans from several of our big water systems to share with you what kind of information goes into the water planning side of things. So Annette, if you don't mind. Sorry for the messed up. So our water system information, this has contact info, but it also has infrastructure information. What kind of materials are used in the distribution lines? I'm going to keep rolling, but if you'll notice at the bottom, there's little Easter eggs in there too. So you can look at specific information about your water system that way. This is Cary's local water supply plan. They also include in the conservation portion that they have purple pipe in Cary. So when we get into looking at ways to reuse our water, Cary actually includes in their local water supply plan. I think you can see it on here. I'm sorry, I know it's small, but they distribute almost 1 million gallons a day just in reused water.
What does purple pipe mean?
Purple pipe is, I've been told, I've never seen it in person. It's actual purple pipe that distributes water from treated water from a wastewater treatment plant to a user for irrigation purposes. Thank you. So let's see here. Let's keep, thank you, Annette. This is the next one. The water use information. Let me make sure. Straight from my notes now. Okay, so in our water use information, we have a breakdown by user of who's using the water. The users can be, well, who do you think are the most common big chunk of the pie of water users? Residential, correct. But close second, we have business, we have industrial, and we have industry. Institutional, there it is, like hospitals and schools, public places that are big water users. Thank you. Annette, keep going. But also included in these local water supply plans are the water supply sources. And I pulled Harnett County's portion of where they get their water from because Harnett County actually sells their water. Harnett County is in the business of water. They sell a huge chunk of the water that they treat to towns in Southern Wake County. I think there's also Fort Bragg that they provide water for them as well. So when we get into talking about water scarcity, I think it's important to point out that we have a lot of interconnections. It's not every man for himself, every woman for herself. We're all connected through infrastructure. Annette? I'm doing long time. Also, I mentioned wastewater is also included in here. So that's where it gets interesting, back on that Saturday night reading, looking at how much water is being pulled to treat versus how much water is being discharged through wastewater. If there's a difference, if we pull 1 million gallons a day to treat, but we only discharge, I don't know, 100,000 gallons a day, what does that tell us? What's that difference telling us? That water is being lost somewhere, and a lot of times it's through irrigation, watering your yards, hoses, swimming pool, filling swimming pools, things like that. So do we actually know where all the water is going? Not necessarily, but we have mechanisms in place to kind of deduce where things are missing. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. All right, so thank you, Annette. She can feel me now. So with future sources, this is when we get into when. Oh, okay, that's the water purchasing information. So with Holly Springs, they're purchasing their water from Harnett County. Okay, so again, that interconnection piece, we're seeing it very present in Southern Wake County. So Annette, keep going. Thank you. Okay, so this is getting into that wastewater discharge. Looking at this graph, this is from Raleigh Water. What's their big month of discharges? It looks like it's getting pretty on up there in August. But, well, no, let's keep going. I gotta stay on time here. Okay. So also with this one, with the wastewater information, we have our wastewater treatment plants. I always say this with my students, but thank goodness for the Clean Water Act, because the Clean Water Act is what enables us to make sure we're keeping tabs on who is discharging into our streams. So we have these wastewater treatment plants discharging. And one misnomer I want to really clarify is our wastewater treatment plants are not discharging sewage into our streams. They are discharging relatively clean water, and it's able to be reused. In fact, I have heard, could be wrong, I heard that when they put on one of the wastewater treatment plants, the mayor of Raleigh actually drank the water that was treated out of it. So the technology is there for our wastewater treatment plants to treat the water very nicely before it releases back in. Okie doke. Still gotta get the water shortage. All right, let's keep going on that if you don't mind. Okay. We can jump. Well, okay, let me share this because this is great reading. In our planning section of these local water supply plans, the bottom line, we plan currently all the way into 2070. I know it's going to flip to 2080 soon, but 50 years into the future. And these models give us an idea of who's scrambling to find future water to meet their demand, who's sitting pretty. It helps us prioritize. So as you can see here, also in the bottom line, it has unaccounted for water. So going back to the considerations of infrastructure, that unaccounted for water number is very insightful, because why would water be unaccounted for? Yeah, the pipes. A lot of these pipes were installed back in the Clean Water Act time when we got the big influx of money. And then these pipes were never maintained and not properly maintained. So they're leaking water, and that's where we find unaccounted for water. So if you find big percentages of unaccounted for water, it gives you insight on that infrastructure, how it might be, ready to be replaced. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to get into the triggers here in a second for our local water shortage response plans. And then if you could go ahead and keep hopping. There we go. Thank you. So those local water supply plans are one thing. And then you can go to the right screen, click on the water shortage response plans. And Annette, if you don't mind, I'm on the home stretch here. These water shortage response plans, y'all, they don't get the attention they deserve until we have times like this. And these plans have been in place since the get-go. I think if you look at Raleigh Water, their water shortage response plan was written a couple of years ago. They just keep it going. So that's why my point is none of these water restrictions are really a surprise, because they have triggers in place. And when Falls Lake is not meeting that water capacity, it hits trigger and we get a stage 1 water restriction. So let's keep going a little bit, Annette. Here is the graph. When I saw it, my eyes widened. I know it's hard to see, but I want to really clarify this. So this is the water shortage response plan implementation triggers from Raleigh Water. And what happens every year, April 1st, Raleigh Water, fingers crossed, Falls Lake is sitting at 100% capacity. Well, this year and at the end of last year, Falls Lake hasn't had 100% capacity since like last September, I think. So if you'll notice, the yellow line on this graph is our stage 1 trigger. We're going to hit stage 1 if in any given month, the Falls Lake is not hitting that capacity, that percent of full. So you can't see it, but 85% is the trigger for April. Well, we're sitting this week, the report comes out, I think every Monday from Army Corps of Engineers. This week we're at 81%. So the big picture is Falls Lake has actually been holding at around the same amount for months. But since we need it to be at 100% in April, that's when that trigger came in place. Follow? That is very technical, and I want to just drive it home. that if you use this graph, you'll notice that we're not going to get out of drought again until, you can go to the next slide, these rescission triggers come into play. So it's good to be aware that we have to get out of our stage 1 water restrictions, we have to be in May at Falls Lake at 95%. So when you start asking questions, how much rain do we need to get out of drought? Well, if we get enough rain to fill up falls to 95%, we're in a world of hurt. So we don't want to immediately get out of drought because we're going to have flooding issues for sure. So I just want y'all to know, and then if you could take it on one more, I just want y'all to know that these stages of water restrictions are here to help us maintain that as much capacity in Falls Lake for Raleigh water as we can. I know, Jackie, but I gotta address Cape Fear because a lot of y'all are getting your water from Cape Fear also. So the big thing is looking at our watersheds and our river basins. Where is Falls Lake in a river basin compared to Jordan Lake? Well, Falls Lake is sitting pretty at the top of a watershed. It doesn't have water draining into it from as much area as Jordan Lake. Jordan Lake is getting water running all the way up from the Hall and Greensburg. So I think it's really important to understand these questions, while they seem really basic, are actually getting at big hornet's nests of systems. And well, I'm going to wrap it up there, but I hope I was able to teach you a little something about what goes on behind the scenes. Thanks for listening.
Hi everyone, Kelsey Sosa. I'm going to wait for my slides to get going, but before I start that, I'll just introduce that I'm from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Wake County Center. If you're not familiar with Cooperative Extension, we are the outreach and education arm of the land-grant universities, so NC State University and NCA&T University. So we take research-based information from the universities and give them to people in a way that can hopefully help improve their lives in some way. I am the Agriculture and Natural Resources team lead. My focus is in water quality. Before being at Cooperative Extension, I worked in fish biology in the Delaware River and Bay, and I also worked at NCDEQ in water quality grants and water quality permitting. So you guys have an awesome environmental committee here who did a great job preparing us for today. And I made a comment several times, probably in our meetings, that actually here in North Carolina, looking at the country as a whole, we don't have so much of a water quantity problem as we do a water quality problem. And that was before the drought started, so I kind of hit my words on that. But I will be talking about water quality because it has big implications in this area, especially with our urban development. Next slide. Okay, I covered that. So to think about water quality impacts in Wake County, I want you to look at an aerial image of the county to consider the environmental consequences when humans become involved in the equation. All right, so I've overlaid the National Land Cover data set for Wake County. You can kind of see here, but those green areas are natural areas, the yellow areas are agricultural, the blue is water. I really want you to pay attention to the pink and the red areas because that is urban suburban development areas, basically where humans have changed the environment to live and work. And actually this data set is from 1984. So I'm going to fast forward approximately 40 years and see what that looks like today. Next slide. Yeah. So if we're considering this from a environmental ecological standpoint, that's a significant change because what this land was before humans was probably mostly pine forests and wetlands and whatnot. And this is going to have significant impacts on the environment. So what's happened, a lot of deforestation of building and the environmental consequence. Obviously, a huge loss of animal habitat and fragmentation of that habitat. You have increased pollution, you have increased stormwater, which I will get into, diminished water quality, air quality, and increased heat. If you're familiar with the urban heat island impact, that's really, we are actually hotter than the surrounding areas if you're living in a city. So what does this look like for stormwater? This is what happens in these pink and red areas. A lot of paving, we got roads, we got parking lots and schools and houses and building businesses. So a lot of that land becomes covered in what we call impervious surface. So if you look on the left side there, you see what natural hydrology should look like. In a mostly natural system, you'll have the majority, approximately half of the water infiltrating into groundwater. When the water is allowed to go through the ground, it's naturally filtered by the soils, and the microbes in the soil provide great cleaning of our water. It's basically a water treatment plant. So half of the water is going into the ground, some of it's being taken up by the plants and evaporated, that's evapotranspiration. And then a small percentage, you can see 10% there, is actually running off across surfaces into nearby creeks and streams. What happens when that all becomes paved over, this is kind of worst case scenario, heavy impervious surface on the right there, is very little of that water is getting into groundwater. We have less plants, so less of it is being evapotranspired. And in fact, a ton of it is running across surfaces into rivers and streams. So what does that mean for water quality? Well, first of all, the water is basically on a water roller coaster here, where it's going very quickly into the stream. So in a natural environment, what would happen is a small amount of water would go into, most of it's going into groundwater, so a small amount is going into the streams to start with, and it's kind of slowly making its way to streams, either through groundwater or surface water. That's what that would look like. In urban environments, I can't tell if my control is working or not. So you pave it over and go one more forward. And this is what our hydrograph looks like in urban environments. Essentially, we're getting a huge rush of water because it's hitting paved surfaces. It's on a flume essentially straight to the streams, a big rush of water. And then you get localized flooding events like you can see in the pictures. And you also get a whole lot of pollution getting into the stream from that. Urban pollution like trash, bacteria, heavy metals, sediment, nutrients, grease, oil, heat, all being carried into streams from that increased stormwater. And this has serious impacts on aquatic systems. First of all that nutrient pollution that's being carried into the water, it makes algae grow like crazy. We get toxic algae blooms. This can unfortunately be acutely toxic. We've had some dogs die in the state from it. It could be toxic to humans as well. But more likely what you'll experience from this is increased cost of water treatment because they have to then treat all this algae out of the water. On top of that, when the algae dies, it consumes all the oxygen in the water, and then you have things like fish kills that you sometimes hear about on the news as well, which have profound impacts on our fishing communities and our state economy as a whole. And then, well, it also affects the drinkability, swimmability, fishability, of our boatability of our waterways, which is how we determine whether or not they are impaired or not. Next slide. So I have put here the map of impaired waters in Wake County. Any water you see that is in red is not meeting state standards for some water quality assessment. And the ones in blue are okay, green are okay. So you can see that I overlaid that over our land cover data set from before, and you can see how well these urban areas correlate to stream impairments. Next slide. And so what is our solution to this? Well, essentially, we want to replicate hydrology pre-construction. So our pre-development hydrology as much as we can, but obviously we can't remove all the buildings and whatnot, but we're trying to be very strategic about where we place natural conditions, your trees, your plants, to allow more water to infiltrate into the ground. Next slide. So something like this, where you're strategically placing what we call stormwater control measures to allow more of that water to go into the groundwater that will recharge aquifers, it will allow natural recharge of streams, and it will filter your water and help with water quality. Next slide. But Mitch is going to talk more about that in a second. As far as protecting water's edge, this is a very typical looking urban stream you can see in the picture. What I mentioned earlier with those high volume of rainfall and stormwater getting into urban streams, you see a lot of erosion of the banks, as you can see here. So that channel is deeply incising. And with all that dirt that's along the banks of the stream, it actually becomes pollution once it gets into the water and causes issues for aquatic environments. Next slide. So what we really would like to see are healthy streams, which would have gently sloping banks, highly vegetated, diverse aquatic species. It has a floodplain. We are in a bad habit of building in the floodplain a lot of the times. And that causes huge issues down the line where we're then in a position to displace people from their homes if they're getting flooded constantly. Really, we should be not building in the floodplain. Riparian buffers do a lot of heavy lifting for water quality. If you leave 30 to 50 feet of natural buffer between where you're developing and the stream, that can filter out a world of pollution before it enters the stream. It also has other benefits, like it keeps the stream shaded, which helps deal with heat issues. But leaving riparian buffers is so essential to water quality. We have here the Neuse and Jordan Lake river buffer rules, which are great because they mandate that we leave some buffers and they make sure that people don't do too much construction in the buffers. If they do, they have to get approval from DEQ. I used to be in that position. And so that's a really great program that our state offers, and I would encourage you to support that as well. Next slide. I am working on a Wake County Nature Smart Yards program that will be educational certification program as well, where we cover some of the topics that I've talked about today, reducing stormwater, protecting water's edge, and it will talk about how you can do that in your own backyard, and it's all these other topics as well. Highly encourage that. Since Lauren was talking about water reuse and conservation, we talk about how you can do that on your property. But also we have, a lot of water being wasted on irrigation that is potable drinking water quality water that we're just spreading out in our lawns. Our grass does not need drinking water to irrigate it. So if you're worried about our water shortages or water in general, a huge way we can reuse water is just to use reclaimed water that receives a lower level of treatment, but is still perfectly fine to irrigate and other uses. Cooling for places that need cooling, it can also be useful for that. So another idea for how we can conserve water. There are a couple initiatives I think you should be aware of. This idea of one water is basically that we can recycle water. All water is one system, right? Just because something is in the ground, some of it's precipitation, some of it's being used for irrigation. It's all one water system, and any way we can make efficiencies in that system benefits all of the system. I skipped over the slide in the beginning, but there's the Wake County One Water Plan that has recently been approved. I have some materials where you can learn more about that, but it is actually a plan that the county put together with American Rescue Planning Act money, and they got a consulting firm to do a bunch of modeling of Wake County's water systems, future climate projections, because the climate is changing, and it takes that into account and looks at our water supply issues, as well as any water quality issues we should be addressing. They did a huge survey of residents to find out what was important to people, how people perceived water. So that is all in the Wake County One Water Plan, which I encourage you to check out. There's been a lot of great planning work in the county to think ahead. It's a 50-year plan, and that will help address these issues. We also have the Jordan Lake One Water Plan and the Falls Lake Upper Neuse River Basin Association, which are looking at things from a watershed perspective about how to deal with these issues. So as Lauren was mentioning earlier, we have these huge watersheds that is where we get our water supply from. See from your perspective, the right side is the Jordan Lake, I believe. No, that's the Falls Lake. And the left side is Jordan Lake. Yeah, so as Lauren mentioned, Jordan Lake is at the end of a large watershed. And the Falls Lake watershed is there. What you can see from these maps is that water does not respect political boundaries. It does not know what county it's in. It does not know what issues it causes by being multi-county, multi-jurisdictional. So when we're thinking about solutions to watershed level problems, we need to think at a watershed scale. So sometimes that can get uncomfortable for politicians or for city councils to figure out solutions if the best solution is not in their county. And that can create issues where they're not spending tax dollars in their own county, even though if they spent tax dollars at the top of the watershed, they could get a lot better results than if they implement solutions within their county. So being open to this idea that we have to deal with things on a watershed scale to deal with watershed issues. We are all upstream. We're all upstream of the Neuse River Basin, the Cape Fear River Basin. So when I'm talking about water quality issues, we are trying to be good neighbors to everyone east of us that is dealing with the pollution from the Raleigh area. Next slide. All right, so again, some solutions to support from the policy level. There's a new movement of stormwater utilities to help deal with stormwater issues. So if you are getting introduced to the idea of here's a stormwater bill, that's why, because we have all these issues from stormwater related to urban development. The river buffers I mentioned earlier, supporting water reclamation. At your home, you can implement some SEMs, which Mitch will talk about, and water conservation. And I will send out a link to stay informed about the Wake County Nature Smart Yards certification as I work on that. At a community level, you can join or create a watershed association. You can help your neighbors understand better about their impacts on water quality and just be a good citizen be a good steward of our water resources. And that is all I have. Thank you.
It's on. Yes. All right, let's put up the slides. Put up my little clock here. Run over. Good afternoon. I am Mitch Woodward. I work for Cooperative Extension, the same outfit as Kelsey. And it's not like that. All right, we're going to start off with a quiz to wake you up. All right. Oh, there's the answer. If you install a stormwater control measure, or SCM, a rain garden, bioswale, water harvester capable of capturing an inch and a half of rain, which is typical of these in this area. If you're down along the coast, it's a little bigger. Okay, and I'll ask another question that's not up here. If you were able to capture an inch or an inch and a half of rain in every storm that was less than an inch or an inch and a half of rain throughout a year, what percentage of rain would you capture? You kind of saw it. Let's see if this is going to work. Next slide. It should fill in our blank. 85 to 90%. So isn't that cool? So if you put in one of these stormwater control measures, you're only going to have about 50% runoff. And everybody's familiar with Chantel that occurred last year? How many inches of rain did we get there? 10, 12 in Orange County? You're not going to create stormwater control measures that will capture that much rain because your whole property would be a pond, right? And why did the colonial capital of North Carolina move from New Bern to Raleigh? Snakes and mosquitoes, mainly. So that makes sense. I'm going to go into small scale solutions in the time we have remaining. Okay, so how do I prevent soil erosion? What's the number one pollutant in North Carolina? Sediment. Sediment. What's the number one cause of that pollutant? It's bare soils. It's farming and stormwater. Okay, so to slow these down, we have stormwater control measures, also known as green stormwater infrastructure. Do any of you use any of the AI programs? Gemini, Grok? Okay, Kelsey's heard me talk about this. Go on Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, and just ask it. Could you explain to me the top 10 green stormwater infrastructure practices and how they work? You'll be amazed. You need to start using this tool. You need to start using it. It's amazing what it comes up. Okay, so I thought I'd give DEQ a plug. There is a stormwater design manual. If you have trouble sleeping at night, it's 2:30 in the morning, right? And you say, boy, I think I want to read the stormwater design manual. Do it. You'll fall asleep immediately. But there's some great stuff in here. All of the practices are detailed in individual chapters. So chapter and verse, plants, design, engineering specs, all of that, and all of the practices in North Carolina are based on this. So this is kind of the stormwater Bible, if you will. NC State and Extension plays a role in this because we're working with the regulators to make sure this is updated and it's all in line. So just search under North Carolina Stormwater Design Manual and this will pop up. Okay. How many people move into North Carolina a day? Go look. Yeah, too many is the answer. 290. You hear about Texas, you hear about Tennessee, you hear about Georgia, South Carolina. Well, they're moving here too. And more people means more impervious areas, right? We need roads, we need schools, we need buildings, we need housing. And as Kelsey explained, that increases impervious areas and that increases storm flow. You've seen that? I won't re-explain that. You've seen that? Very useful slides. I'll just forward through this guide, sorry. All right, here's another one. I thought of this graphic myself. How much water runoff can be captured? If you captured 1.5 inches rainfall on 1 square foot, see the white floor tile from Home Depot in the foreground? If it rains 1.5 inches on that floor tile, that's a gallon. That's a gallon runoff. How many inches do we get a year here? 45, 55, typically. We're a little behind now, right? But typically, we get a brute trash can full of rain on that 1 square foot annually. So that'll give you a visual representation of how much every square foot of impervious area, how much runoff that creates. So when you leave today, look at the roof, look at the parking lot, see if you can tell how many square feet are out there, and then think of this, 1 gallon for every 1.5 inches, and that's what's running off. Another good example is a football field. If you've been to Carter Finley and watched NC State play, you will see that that is an acre. Football field is an acre with the end zone, 27,500 gallons if it rains 1 inch on that football field. It's 27,500. So I love this sign, lost in suburbia. Anytime we get an impervious area over 10 or 15% in a watershed, water quality impacts result. Right, Gene?
Right.
If that's correct, see? Everybody know Gene? Gene and I used to work together. Still do. She's trying to talk me into coming out of the Olmsted now. So I'm going to do it. I need to see that bioretention. All right, forward. All right, here's me in my native environment. We need practices that slow the water down, spread it out, and soak it in, the 3 S's. So when you think of stormwater management, that's what we're thinking about. And we research this and we teach this. Next slide, please. So, what can we do in suburban areas? Well, what about this? An ideal water-wise landscape. This is what Kelsey's program is working towards. This is what we talked about for many years. Conserving native vegetation, permeable pavement where it fits, amended soils that absorb runoff, bioswales, vegetated swales, rain gardens, bioretention. So these are all pretty much labeled small scale solutions, but they're all solutions that we can incorporate on individual lots. Because when you think about it, what's Jordan Lake, what's Falls Lake, what's Lake Crabtree? Maybe that's a better example. What is Lake Crabtree? Technically, it's a sediment capture device. It's a stormwater pond, right? Are they allowing us to build those? Is there room to build those now, currently? No. So what's our alternative? These small scale solutions. So if we can have a lot of these practices installed at the top of watersheds in areas that are near where the stormwater is being produced, we can help to influence the amount of stormwater that runs off the sites. The problem is now we've got a maintenance issue, right? We've got thousands and thousands of these practices, maybe even one neighborhood. And you can imagine, people don't take care of their air conditioning systems or their cars necessarily. Now we're going to have them taking care of stormwater control measures that they may or may not even understand. So you can see the dilemma we're in. These work, but there's going to be thousands of these throughout the watershed. Okay, let's keep going. Did I go backwards? Okay. So again, that's what the streams look like. Property issues. Notice that house is for sale. Buyer beware. We're doing a realtor's workshop tomorrow in Cary. This is what we're going to address. We need the realtors to help to look at this, not just focus on what's inside the building that they're selling, but also, is it in the FEMA floodplain? Anybody look up a floodplain in their area? You're supposed to be advised if it's in the floodplain. It works sometimes. All right, Wake County is into stormwater management. Let's keep going. It's the big bar there. So that's the #1 priority in Wake County. All right, this is a great example, just to give you an idea of the scale of this. I know this is Durham, but this is Ellerby Creek. It holds the distinction of having the largest impervious area of all of the tributaries going to falls. And you can see it's about half, and this is Old Durham, between 147 and I guess the Durham Bulls Athletic Park and in that area. You can see that we're about half and half. Half impervious area and half pervious. So it's about 50%. And what percentage did I say we start seeing stream degradation? 10 to 15%? All right, so we're like 3 or 4 times. So if you take a look at the Ellerby Creek watershed, there it is in yellow. And by the way, this is a program called USGS Stream Stats, United States Geologic Survey. You can go in there, plan on spending a few minutes to figure out how to work it. It's a little clunky, but once you get it going, it'll give you a watershed area that you're interested in, and that's where it flows into Falls Lake. Next slide. Okay, if you do all the math, that watershed is 26 square miles. That's 16,500 acres. That it's 18% impervious. Okay, so that's 3,000 acres of impervious area. 3,000 acres times 43,560 square feet is 1,000,003, easy for me to say, 131 million square feet. 131 million square feet times 0.623, that's how many gallons you get in a 1-inch rain. 81 million gallons of water flows into Falls Lake from Ellerby Creek when it rains. when it rains. So we need some of that water, right? Right? So 81 million gallons. And that's from a very large impervious area. Is it clean? No, it's not. All right. Next slide, please. Clicking away here. Stalling a bit. Try it again. Okay, so what can be done? Well, we are training professionals, realtors, stakeholders, landowners, master gardeners, and we have certifications that we teach. We have an inspection and maintenance class on these stormwater control measures, rainwater harvesting, and stream bank stabilization and restoration. Downspout disconnection, the most simple and cost-effective of them all. Instead of routing the downspout out to the street, why not just have it go on your yard and have it absorb? Why don't people like this? Oh, it makes the yard muddy. And also landscapers look at this as a profit center because they can route a pipe to the street and charge you for it. The towns don't like this. So this, you can get up to 90% runoff reduction just ending your downspout at the house. Making sure that, of course, the water flows away from it, not into your crawl space. So that's downspout disconnection. So is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Yes. Yes, the grass looks healthy. Might be a little wet for a couple days after a rainstorm, but that's okay. You don't need to mow the grass anyway. So that is a good thing. What is that practice?
Soil.
That is a grass swale. What's a swale? It's a ditch you can mow. Face it. You don't want to mow a ditch down east. You don't want to go to New Bern and mow a ditch, but this is in Durham. You can mow this ditch. It's a ditch you can mow. And that captures water from the parking lot uphill at the library and this big building on the right and sends it down that swale. That is a stormwater practice. Nicely vegetated with turf. These are connected downspouts. Notice that they all go to the street or the driveways or to impervious surfaces. We want to stop and cut these off and make them go into pervious surface. So is this a stormwater practice? Well, could be. So water flows, so I can get this slide to work. Flows across that walkway down along the Liriope and out. And instead of going into the creek through that pipe, this is not a stormwater practice. There's very little absorptive area between the pipe and the stream. So we want to increase that, so why not have it up in New York? Rainwater harvesting. Why don't people like this practice? Yeah, mosquitoes are one. Big ugly tank is another. Looks kind of agricultural. But works like a charm. Every bit as good as a rain garden if you manage it well. The mosquitoes are easily handled. Everybody heard of mosquito dunks? Or just use the water. So there's some system considerations. You need to size it. Some HOAs outlaw these. They don't like it. Kelsey, I have these out. You need to hide it with some landscaping. It's easy enough to do. Typical homeowner size, 50 to 600 gallons. We can go larger. And you can see the one in Winston-Salem on the lower picture. I don't find that objectionable at all. Yes, question? It's about 60 gallons. Okay, you have 350. Are they connected or are they separate? They're separate, okay. That's a good way to start. But again, you're going to need 1 gallon of capacity in the tank for every square foot of roof area. Your rain barrels are probably undersized. But they're easy to put in the back of a car and take. That's 600 gallons you're going to have delivered. Yeah, you need a tank at least that large. 1 gallon. Because remember, if it rains an inch or an inch and a half on a square foot, that's a gallon. So wet versus dry systems, you can pipe these anywhere. Don't think they have to be right next to the house. You can have this, we can put one on this building and the tank could be out here in the woods somewhere. And we would just have to route plumbing over to it. And it would work just because of gravity. We could make it work. I won't go into the details of that, but it works. If you want to know how does that happen? Grab a hose and fill it with water, lower one end. What happens? It runs out the lower end. So the pipe by the tank just has to be lower than the roof and it will run to that system. Makes it very flexible. All right, help me out here. Okay, so here's some piping. We'll roll through this really quick. When are we supposed to end, guys? It's
5 minutes. About 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay, all right, let's keep going here. There's some tanks we put in, large and small. This is cool. This is at a Presbyterian church in Siler City. And see the roof area? And the water from the roof enters our that's a 500-gallon tank. And then it goes out to a rain garden. And if it's wet, they have baptisms. They're going back to nature. They put some papyrus in there and have a good time. So that is a great system. Here we are in Pawleys Island. We work with Clemson a lot these days. And this is at the town hall in Pawleys Island near Georgetown. Can you see the rainwater harvester in that picture? Can you see the 1,000-gallon tank off 1,000-square-foot roof area? It's behind that tree. And it flows to the rain garden. So it's green. You can get them green. Another thing, if you want to do this, you can do it. Buy these tanks locally. Get them on the internet. You want a dark color so they won't grow algae. Here's my trailer. And that's a 300-gallon tank and a 500-gallon tank in my little trailer. These are 200 gallons. Cut the downspout and the water goes in. Very slick. This is at the Interfaith Food Shuttle in downtown Raleigh. Very close. So they got these from the veterinary school and they had an aspiring artist and they painted these up. Each one of these is 6,000 gallons. And they have a community garden. Rain gardens. Anybody hear about rain gardens? Anybody put a rain garden in? We just taught a workshop in Pinehurst. We have a certification class. You can either look it up or shoot that QR code. A rain garden is about a 10-inch depression in the lawn, level surface, level bottom. And we put those at the bottom of downspouts and we can collect runoff. The plants that go in it, has anybody visited our extension plant toolbox site? Anybody? Do you like it? It's getting better. I'm sorry? Good. They've spent a lot of money and time, so I'm glad to hear that. Go to it. It's called the North Carolina Extension Plant Toolbox. You can search by shade tolerant. You can search by sun. You can search trees. You can search shrubs, herbaceous. So go through all that, play with that. Spend a lot of money on that. You may have to help me out here again. Oh, well, there you go. So, okay. All right, rain gardens, it's a depression, collects water. Take my word on it, it collects water, sends it into the surrounding soil. Reduces runoff and increases infiltration 50%. Need to wrap up here. Can be as simple as just protecting a natural area during construction. Here's a rain garden in Cary, new construction. They've had some urban infill coming in, replacing the houses that were built circa World War II. Here's a little one, they don't have to be big. Winston-Salem. And let's keep going. There's Papyrus, that was in Apex. Siler City. All right, streams. Let's go through streams. What's the problem with this picture? Would this stream bank hold during a large storm, do you think? Does grass have deep roots? Does grass have deep roots enough to hold the stream bank? No, No, grass roots are 3 or 4 inches thick, or 3 or 4 inches, go 3 or 4 inches into the soil. It will not hold a high velocity water. We learned that in Western North Carolina, working with Helene, damaged areas. If we have native vegetation, and here's a tree, native tree, we just need more of them to help to protect that. So the worst enemy of stream bags are string trimmers and Roundup. You kill all that vegetation and it just wipes it out. So we're going to fix this stream bank. That's one of the projects. Case in point, here's a fish farm in Brevard. Anybody been to Brevard? This is a family fish farm. This area received 30 inches of rain during Helene in September of 2024. Do you think he's a little nervous? He's got millions of dollars in trout in those ponds. That's just one pond. So we need to fix that with native woody vegetation. Yeah. Oh, string trimmers. Yeah, the string trimmers, weed eaters, you hear them everywhere. Sounds like a bumblebee. They start up, all the landscapers use them. Yeah, look up string trimmer. And some people call them a weed eater. So we need native vegetation. So we need to put trees and native shrubs in there. What's going on here? We call that Roundup going wild. They sprayed, somebody saw a snake. What's a better alternative? Native, woody, herbaceous, native vegetation. So we're just about there. Is this the answer? Can you do this on streams? That's Pillow Creek. Pillow Creek. It's little dollops of concrete on a nylon blanket. And they put that there. No, you can't do that. That's against the rules, right? DEQ would have a fit. You can't do that. And we teach these certifications. We have live stakes. These are native shrubs and trees that grow from cuttings and some coconut fiber. And we use coir matting in these native plants to secure the stream banks. And just kind of flipping through here, we're at the end. It's 1:15. And so before and after. So that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah,
I
we're
ask
gonna ask the
questions or-
speakers, all three, to come up on stage for questions.
Any questions? Yes.
Sorry, can you raise your hand so I can find you?
Complain about mosquitoes with the rain gardens. What's the answer for that?
Rain gardens are designed to drain within 3 to 4 days after a rain event. So if that's true, you won't have mosquitoes, because even in the summer, it takes about 5 to 7 days for them to complete their life cycle from the larvae to the adult. You'll hear about them in cisterns more. I think somebody mentioned that. Mosquito dunks you can use, which is a bacteria that's just focused on mosquito larvae. So if it's functioning correctly, you shouldn't have it. If it's wet all the time and it's in shade, standing water in shade, guarantee you'll have mosquito issues. So we need to avoid that.
It's also true that like larger systems like wetlands that are also great for water quality. If they're healthy functioning wetlands, they attract mosquito predators like dragonflies and will often keep mosquitoes that way.
Wait, if you go to take out a building permit, I know there are some recommendations for the percentage impervious. Is there any organization that monitors that or enforces it?
As far as impervious area,
If you're taking out a building permit, is somebody reviewing?
well, the number one that I encounter most of the time is the city of Raleigh and the Swift Creek watershed. Because that's a drinking water supply watershed, and I probably get 10 calls a year from homeowners that want to put in a circular driveway or a sunroom on the back of the house or a deck or expand a driveway. And now they're over their impervious area by 1, 2, 3,000 square feet. So now they have to put in typically a rain garden or rainwater harvester to capture the water, the additional stormwater that they created because of that addition. And it has to be approved and it has to be maintained. Yeah. So a lot of people do it themselves, put the practice in, or they have to hire a contract. There's some around, not a lot.
We've got a rain garden for almost 10 years, backyard. The backyard is shady, and we have obviously some mosquito problem. But the mosquito problem has not gotten any worse than rain garden. I've never seen any signs of
That's good. Again, shade and standing water longer than 3 or 4 days, then just beware. Sometimes people want to put a wetland in. I would not put a wetland in that situation because wetlands are wet all the time. You'll have more. And that's when you can put the flowering plants in that attract predators, frogs, dragonflies. But typically they like the sun. So if it's really wet, either don't do it or see if you can put a rain garden in.
So I have a question about rain gardens too. Maybe you can answer it. How do you maintain plants in a rain garden during a drought? Because I assume they like damp feet.
Irrigate, depending on your address, either odd or even dense.
So you have
Because we're under stage 1, right? We're under stage 1? Yeah, so
you do have to take care of
irrigate.
your own rain garden.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much, but if you chose your plants correctly, they're gonna like wet feet. But if it's been established in the last year or two, it's still kind of precarious. The plants aren't well established, so definitely irrigate 1 or 2 times a week. Not a lot. I mean, I wouldn't fill up the rain garden, but just, yeah, definitely.
A question for Kelsey. You said the chief pollutant is sediment. I'm thinking about some of the other delightful pollutants like PFAS and one thing and another. What are we thinking about that? How do we manage that?
Ooh, I was hoping PFAS would come up.
I wasn't.
No. PFAS is a whole can of worms that would probably require another day of talks. But the levels at which they consider PFAS to be harmful are so low that we almost don't have the equipment to test down to those levels. So it's hard to say this water source is safe because we can't even test to the quadrillionth of a gram that they need. Yeah. So that's an emerging science and it's still coming out. We're not, as exposed as they are in the lower Cape Fear in this area. So, got that going for us. You guys have anything to add about it?
This is a question for Lauren. When Helene came through in Asheville, they had this catastrophe in their reservoir, which made that water unusable. Do we feel like we're protected or that we have redundant systems in place to deal with anything like that?
That's a great question that I cannot answer that definitively, but that would be a question for the Army Corps of Engineers to talk about what systems are in place to prevent something like that from happening. I would say off the cuff though, yes, there are people that do that every day and that is their role. Yeah, but also at DEQ, we have in the Division of Energy, Mineral, and Land Resources, we have our dam safety programs as well that we're Army Corps of Engineers. Throughout the whole state, there's thousands of dams that we have to consider for situations just like that.
My question is about the potential data center and Apex, and if that's incorporated into your 50-year plan. I know there's a 1-year moratorium on it, but how much are you fighting back about the prospect of having a data center Apex?
Another hot topic and a great topic, and again, an emerging topic that we are looking at our neighboring states on that as well. I do not have any definitive guidance on how to address that from DBQ yet, because we are still in the process of trying to figure out how to work with the communities that want to set these up as things ramp up to do more of this. I would say though, our partners in Virginia are ahead of, they've been in this situation for a while, so we do work with them to learn from their experience as well. So it goes back to partnerships and learning from each other and working together. But I do not have a definitive response to that. We're figuring it out as we go.
Kelsey, could you tell us more about the nature smart yards?
Oh, sure. So Wake County Nature Smart Yards, I'm developing the program now, but it's based on a very similar programs. There's Tennessee Smart Yards as well, but it's kind of looking at a holistic approach to yard sustainability. So how you can help the ecosystem in myriad ways. So it could be planting plants for pollinator gardens to encourage local species to thrive. It could be managing stormwater. It has 9 modules. I will share out an information link so that you can get informed when we have stuff live. But right now we're working on the videos. There'll be 9 videos. You watch them and then you can incorporate actions into your yard to qualify for a yard certification where you could have a yard sign.
Other questions?
So is the Rainwater Rewards program still up and running? Because people might want to know about it.
Oh yeah, so let me share some great local programs that are here. If you're in the Raleigh jurisdiction, there's Raleigh Rainwater Rewards, which will help you fund these small projects on your properties. And then there's also Cary has a green stormwater grant right now that can help support projects in Cary as well. And Mitch and I sit on the Wake County Water Partnership, where we're working with local governments and the county offices and also private water suppliers. But we're trying to encourage more programs like that where you can get funding to help support.
The good news with those programs is it provides a positive incentive and also requires maintenance. So if you're going to do a rain garden or a wetland or a rainwater harvester, you can get it paid, and in some cases, up to 75 to 90% or more, depending on what watershed you're in. And then there's a maintenance contract, which I like, because a lot of people get enamored with these things, and then after about a year, it's like old hat, and they're like, and they go forgotten. They won't let you do that, because they're going to ask for the money back if you don't take care of it. So it's actually a positive incentive with a little twist that you have to maintain it. With any government money, there's going to be a stipulation connected with it.
We have time for one more question. Any other questions? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to all of our. And thank you all for coming. I want to thank our environment committees, especially Carol Ashcraft, Pat Butler, Elizabeth Fenson, Jackie Giordano, Tess Lineback, Bobby Mullins, Marcy Silver, Gail Stone, and Eve Vitaglione. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your all being here, and watch our calendar for other events, and we'll restart this series in September. Have a great summer.